Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another edition of Dwarven Tavern Radio. I am your host, Jeff Goins, and my co-host today is
Lyric Goins,
and we have a special guest in the tavern today, and his name is Phillip Bentle. How you doing, Phillip?
Hey guys, what's up?
Phillip is going to be talking to us today about our currently running theme, which is magic. We've had our last show was about magic. And Phillip is an avid gamer, right?
I'm a very avid gamer.
He is a very avid gamer. So he's like a gamer, an avid gamer plus one. He's a plus two avid gamer. I don't know.
It's like when I'm asleep on somebody else's dungeon.
Yes. So we're going to be interviewing him for the show today and getting his opinions. He's got some really interesting insights that we wanted to share with the world. So our first topic of discussion for this show is obviously magic. Now, Phillip, you wanted to do a dissertation, as it were, of your philosophy of magic. So what is your philosophy of magic?
So basically, my philosophy of magic is that something I've been noticing, especially from my own personal experiences, from my what I do in my spare time, from training to even gaming, is that they all have a central theme, is that there is some kind of energy force that's out there. Like, for example, when you're practicing martial arts, you have your ki, which is flowing inside you, and that it kind of helps you out whenever you need it.
Right.
And then you have also your other like in Buddhism, you have chi or whatever it is that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, the central theme is that there's all this central spiritual energy or life force that we all can either control or that we're aware of.
Right.
And gaming also has taken that into account too, with D&D, and that. Personally, I think a lot of magic, it has a lot to do with the spiritual energy that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's just another take on it. That's really what all of this is about. Is that it's just another way of not repackaging, but it's just another way of looking at it.
I agree with that. I think that whether you call it ki or chi or mana or Gaia or the Force or whatever, I think it's all the same thing. Some people would call it God even. But yeah, it is an underlying theme, and the philosophy of magic users and sorcerers in the game is all about channeling said energy and making it manifest in different shapes, like a lightning bolt or a fireball, and
magic missiles,
Or sleep.
a web, or
tons of other spells that you can come up with.
And there are, of course, different types of magic users. Now, the sorcerers, according to the book, it says here in the book, and this is an interesting thing: sorcerers create magic the way a poet creates poems. Oh, isn't that sweet?
It's romantic.
With inborn talent honed by practice. They have no books, no mentors, no theories, just raw power that they direct at will. Okay, so that's kind of like your Harry Potter, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't it be like a Harry Potter kind of?
Well, Harry Potter, he actually learned it from others. He had mentors and books.
Yeah, that's right.
He also had a wand, which was used as a medium for his magic tube.
That is true. A focus.
So, something about Harry Potter I kind of find a little hilarious is that it's like in the first book when they're learning the levitation spell, and the guy's doing it all wrong with the wrong movements and the wrong saying, and I can just hear the wand saying, "Stop that! That's not right. That's not right. That's not right." I'm gonna okay. You know what? Poof! And now you have no eyebrows.
I've seen that done with a gas grill.
Yeah, me too. Too many times.
Too many.
One too many.
And then, of course, the wizards. The wizards get all their magic from books and spells, and that is actually more of the Harry Potter thing. Harry Potter is a bad parallel for D&D magic because Harry Potter started out with the kind of the sorcerer theme, and then moved to the wizard theme because they have to have natural magic ability. Elsewise, they're a muggle. And then they moved into learning everything from spells and books, from all their spells from books.
Well, it's kind of like the thing where you have some sort of power, but it's just learning how to control it through.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking
Right.
about comparing it to like the X-Men because they have that innate mutation, but some of them don't know how to control it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like
I just think it's bad writing, but
me too. But
and I'm probably going to get a lot of flack from that for because there's a lot of Harry Potter fans out there.
I would just like to go ahead and go out there and say that I did like the books.
I did enjoy the books.
I only enjoyed it up to 5 because after I couldn't like read 5.
You might as well
and-
just be bashing your head against the wall.
Yeah, 'cause, I mean, the only one that I truly enjoyed was the first one because it wasn't edited to, like, it wasn't Americanized.
Right.
Because that was before it was popular.
And you know what a lot of people don't realize is that, and I know we're totally getting off topic here. Well, not really, but the Harry Potter books was not intended to be a book about magic, and it was just a magical boy and the whole theme was it was a boarding school story. I mean, it was, they have their various genres as we have Westerns. They have, boarding schools. Yeah, it's really weird. And that's
interesting.
That's what it was. So you're saying, Philip, that the parallels between real life and D&D are very similar.
In a way, yes.
Yeah. Well, and in a way, you're also right. I mean, I know there are a lot of I don't know, anti-gaming societies out there that would suggest that gaming is evil and anti-Christian and
so on and so forth.
so on and so forth. Yeah.
Well,
And-
there's always going to be somebody protesting something. I'm
Well,
sure there's somebody out there protesting marshmallows.
Well,
There's gotta be.
There's a lot of dietitians out there protesting marshmallows. And the Michelin Man doesn't care for that at all. Or your average Walmart shopper. I had to say that.
Ouch.
Yeah, oh yeah. But the thing is to keep the separation of reality and fantasy. I mean, we all know that this is just a game, even though in reality there are really people out there who can do tremendous feats of just apparently superhuman ability through the use of ki or chi. I know that there's a whole bunch of monks that have demonstrated the things that you can do. Martially speaking,
That one would consider some sort of magic.
Yeah, it's like, the guy that could throw the chopsticks through a 2-inch thick solid oak door.
Or the person that can grab an arrow out of thin air while blindfolded.
Yeah, and
Or-
the guy that could chop the BB in half.
I was just about to
Ouch.
mention
Is that what you're gonna talk-
that's
yeah,
what I was
yeah,
saying.
I could-
But
I
was
could
like,
actually see it.
that's not really magic. That's
Well,
just more heightened ability.
Yeah, but
It would
if
still
you-
hurt.
Yes, but those are abilities that have been enhanced through the use of what one could call magic. I mean, in the days when magic was prevalent in the Dark Ages, in the Middle Ages, anything that couldn't be explained or anything that didn't seem natural or normal was given the moniker magic. It was called magic, and
Because
if-
if you can't do it, it's magic.
it's a magic. Don't ask why.
It just works.
It just and there were a lot of people. If someone could pulled off a tremendous feat of strength or something like that, they were called a witch and burned.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and because the people were afraid of it, and it was supposed to be ungodly. Because actually, just to quote a brief passage of the Bible, there is a passage, I believe it's in Deuteronomy, in the book that in which Jesus actually condemned the use of magic. So
It's strange because some could consider the miracles of the Bible magic.
Well, that's right, and that's actually why he was crucified. He was crucified because he was. They said he was a sorcerer.
It's kind of like, look at me, don't do what I do.
Yeah, do what I say, not what I do. Exactly.
Which is not setting a good example, because that's how little kids learn, is that they're learning from example.
They're learning from examples. So, because he said, magic is an abomination. Here, I'm going to raise this guy from the dead, which is
water. No,
Lord, excuse me, but isn't that? Never mind. So that's real life. Now, in the game, of course, the game is entirely different. Have you done much gaming with magic in your games?
Well, there's been a lot of magic involved with my games. I have never personally played a mage or a sorcerer or a wizard or whatever it is that you want to call them. Actually, most of my characters actually really know about magic. Is that it's hot and it explodes. And actually, there's this instance where I was playing a game with a buddy of mine, and his friend was being DM, and I had just finished killing off this bunch of goblins, and he said, you find a chest and you open it and you find a sword in there. It's a long sword. It's a +3 long sword.
Wow.
And I rolled my spot check or my search check, and it was the only time I rolled a natural 20 in that instance. And I found out that the sword was called Troll Sword.
Okay.
And he said that there was a strange smiley face on it. So I was like, okay. So I put away my great sword. I'm like, I'm going to use this thing because it's brand new, and I kind of want to christen it. So I find another bunch of goblins, and I pull out my sword, and I go to swing, and it was a natural 20, and I roll my damage, and then next thing I know, I see the DM kind of like looking, and then he rolls a die, and he takes out a situation die, and goes, pop, right in the middle of the table, and brings up as also a 20. He says, your sword's not made out of rubber. And you hear a cackling.
Oh my god.
And I was like, what is going on here? And of course, I didn't know that was a cursed item. And of course, as soon as I picked it up, it was binding on pickup.
Of course.
So I was like, oh, great. Well, it turns out that he made the sword specifically for me to find. And he called it a troll sword because it made you mad on purpose. It was like trolling. It was a trolling sword.
It was a trolling sword.
And of course, it was a +3, so he knew I was going to use it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Fun with magic. Curses are amazing, and because I had a friend in a situation like that who picked up a sword, and it was -1 cursed, and. Yeah, and he beat it until it was like a -15. He tried to destroy it, and he couldn't destroy it, and he would throw it off a cliff, and then draw his other sword, and it would be that one in his hand, and it got to the point where he was just about to go crazy.
It was kind of like Thor's hammer.
yeah, exactly. It kept returning, and he actually had to do this adventure to save up like 15,000 gold pieces to pay an exorcist or a priest to exorcise the curse, to remove the curse. And when he did, he held his hand out, and the sword was stuck to his hand, even though it was palm down and his fingers were open. It was stuck up to his hand, and the priest removed the curse, and the sword fell to the ground. He's like, oh, finally, stupid sword. And he picks the sword up and goes to throw it, and it went zip, right back. No!
Would you like to replay a game? It's a quarter now.
Game over. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But yeah, there's a lot of things about magic. Of course, magic and science fiction. they go hand in hand. It's because where the wizard is zapping things with his wand, the other guy in the science fiction show is blasting things with his blaster. It's like super science and sorcery are kind of the same thing in the two different genres. And neither can be explained except only through loose theory. So without magic, what do you think the gaming experience would be like?
Well, it would be the equivalent of two people just beating each other over and over again.
The Crusades.
The Crusades without Michael Bay there, basically.
Yes.
There's no Transformers or explosions.
Right. Didn't he? What was he? I don't know. There was a movie called The Kingdom of Heaven with Orlando Bloom that was incredibly well made, I thought. But I don't know who directed that. It was a really good movie. And it was pretty much, that's what it was. It was the Crusaders against Saladin, and
Saladin?
Saladin. Yeah.
Was he French? Or
No, he was
perhaps ranch?
No, ranch, Italian. He was more of a vinaigrette.
That was a bad joke. I'm sorry.
Yes, Saladin.
On the side with balsamic.
It was more of a balsamic. Okay, so we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we will continue our discussion with Phillip and Lyric, and we'll be back in a moment. As I walked through a waning summer day, I found a maiden dressed in a summer fair. She stroked the gray clouds passing overhead and wore the day's burnt ashes in her hair. She said, would you care to have a game of playful archery? And fell the stars down from the falling skies. She said, would you care to have a game of playful archery? Her smooth and perfect skin as she walked through my sobriety. She spoke in riddles of the evening winds with undertones of high anxiety. She said, would you care to have a game of playful archery? I stood there helpless as a yearling fawn. She didn't notice my perplexity. My hesitation cost me everything as I affronted her propriety. She said, would you care to have a game of playful archery? The muscle tight string up on the bow, wrapped up tightly in her agony, her stare shot through me just like an arrow. She said, would you care to have a game of playful archery? And we're back. You are listening to Dwarven Tavern Radio at www.dwarventavern.net. We are talking to Phillip Bentle, the magic guy.
The magic guy.
Of the day. Yeah.
I am magicked.
He is magic. He's magical. When he's on the dance floor, he is... Anyway, we're talking about magic, and we were going to talk a little bit about spell prep. Now, you said you didn't want to be a wizard or a spellcaster because of the dreaded spell preparation. What do you think about that?
Well, what I think about that is that I can see myself rolling a 1 and then having something explode. And now I'm on fire, and then I'm gonna fumble a roll check, and I'm gonna just burn to death.
Of course. Yeah, you stop, drop, and lay there. It's like, no, it's that third part. That's the important part.
Dad, you're doing it wrong.
You're doing it wrong.
You gotta roll after you drop, not drop while you're rolling.
Not roll, drop, and stop. But it said stop. Anyway, I have in my hand the Critonomicon, which is a fantastic book by Tony Hellman. The cover is worn almost out. And it's from Technomancer Press, and the ISBN number is 9780976931003. You can find them. I don't think they're still around, actually.
You might be able to find one on Amazon, though.
You can, but the last one I saw on Amazon was like over $100 for a copy of the book.
Is that? Oh wow, it must be rare.
Yeah, it very much is, and it's very sought after because this is one of the most comprehensive books on critical hits and fumbles.
I think it's the most useful thing that we've had since I don't know, gaming.
Every time somebody fumbles or rolls a critical, I refer to the Critonomicon, and one of the things that you can do is you can get wild magic effects or magical fumbles. And some of these fumbles are just tremendous. Like
wipeout worthy.
Yes, if you roll a 67, for example, smoke billows from the caster's mouth, filling a 30 by 30 foot indoor space in 3 rounds, creating a plume visible outdoors from a mile away.
Wingardium Leviosa, Wingardium.
And this is a really good one. If you roll a 70 on this particular chart, all metal within 30 feet is heated as the heat metal spell for 3 rounds. So anyone near you wearing armor.
So if you fumble while casting a spell and your DM tells you to roll percentile dice and you roll this number, that's what would happen.
So like if you fumble while trying to cast a spell, do you like stutter?
Well, if you're casting a spell and an arrow strikes you, or somebody bumps you, or something happens to disrupt your...
Or you just say something incorrectly, like in the movie Ferngully, she said, "I give the gift of fairy size instead of give the gift of fairy sight."
Right.
So that cost the main character, he actually shrank instead of being able to see what she saw.
Right. Exactly.
And that was a fumble. She just didn't pronounce it right, and then something else happened and said.
That could go wrong in so many ways.
It could.
Yeah, absolutely. And this book even has, for different spell types, like transmutation or abjuration spells. For example, transmutation, level 7 to 9, if you rolled a 16, your spell duration is just cut in half. Or the caster accidentally casts time stop.
How long does that last?
Wow. Forever? Depends on your perspective, I guess. It would be either instantaneously or forever. Magical,
never stop.
magical explosion. Caster takes 1d6 points of damage per spell level. So there's your explosion.
The dreaded explosion.
The dreaded spell explosion, and it just goes on. But there's a lot of really cool fumbles that can happen, and I don't know if I've ever had the instance arise that someone has had a spell interrupted to the point where they had to roll on the fumble chart.
I don't think any situations actually happened like that.
It's really strange. I've had the instance where I had to roll to see if someone got an arrow through a fireball.
Ouch.
Because they were casting a fireball at this creature at the same time someone else was firing an arrow at it, and they both went simultaneously. Well, the arrow dust, ashes, actually hit the creature. Harmless, but it ruined the arrow.
And there's one thing I would do if I was like a sorcerer or something like that, is that I would go, once I got to a town, I would find like a bunch of cabbages or a bunch of leeks and just buy the entire lot, and then go find one of the preachy people and just like telepathically throw the cabbage and leeks at the preachy.
That's a very specific
Preachy.
Yeah, the person who's sitting in the middle of the town, like, oh, we're all gonna die soon. Invest in Apple.
So it's the ghost of a preacher.
Right, well, that's how he talks, because he's so distressed that the end of the world's coming by.
Yeah,
and he's
stopping in.
and he's also having leaks flying at his face.
Well, that's why he thinks the sky's falling.
Yeah.
So with spells, another thing that I wanted to talk about is spell availability. Now, how many people go through like the player's handbook and just pick out the spells that they want? I mean,
well, I would do that, but that's just me.
I actually know quite a lot of players that would do that.
Yeah, and so, in my world, if you don't have the spell, you can't just go into the book. You actually have to find the spell somewhere and
learn it.
And
or have it in one of your wizard books that you've bookmarked before.
Right. And
this will be useful.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that requires, I guess, a modicum of preparation that I don't know if a lot of people would want to invest in. So what about spell availability? How when you're dungeon master, you've dungeon mastered, right, Phillip?
No, I haven't.
You have not dungeon mastered. So you are basically at the
mercy of a dungeon master.
Mercy of a dungeon master. When you've played with people who are spellcasters, is that what they do? Do they just go through the book and find what spells they want to cast? And
quite honestly, I don't really pay attention too much to what the spellcasters do.
Yeah.
Because I assume they kind of play by the rules, but as people probably are very well aware that they make house rules are applied sometimes. Mm-hmm. Well, when I mean sometimes, I mean most of the time.
Right, sure.
But I've always saw them looking through a separate sheet of paper. I'm like, I have 3Ds I can use. I have this that has 12 hours before I can use it again. What is this? I don't even remember what that is. I have to look that up. And it's like, last time I tried to use this, I lost all my hair. I was like, last time I tried to use this, I transported my friend to a different dimension. Let's not go through that again. That's an entire side quest. That took 3 days to complete. He was not happy.
Yeah, okay, so it sounds like that's some pretty specific, pretty detailed.
Really in thorough.
Yeah.
In thorough?
In thorough.
It's really in thorough.
In thorough. In thorough, the magic user.
I'm rolling that guy up now.
Yes, you must.
Write it down.
Trademark.
In thorough. Trying to stamp. So yeah, and I think that's actually someone who takes their sorcery seriously, and I like that.
Well, for something that's largely memory based, for something like that, you would have to.
Yeah,
I would think.
Now, in my rules, the availability of spells is very limited. You know, if you don't have a book like right now, Ian, the Tavernier, Ian is he's playing a necromancer character who only has a book of there's a couple of spells in it. He found this, and it's a D20 modern campaign, and he found a book in an old library that he was the night watchman of, and he found this. There was 2 books. One was a book that told him how to animate skeletons. And another book was I can't remember what the other book was, but there was only like 2 spells, and that's the only spells he knows.
That's cool.
And so he is truly a necromancer, and will be going up in levels as such. But you know, he has to, if he wants any more spells, he'll have to find them. And that's the way it should be. Now, the other thing that I don't do, or the one thing that I don't do, is I disagree with the rule about magical energy going through your brain and wiping that spell out.
What?
And
I've actually never heard of that.
Yeah, that's what's supposed to happen. You have the spell memorized, and when you cast it, magical energy goes through you because you're a conduit for energy.
Well, here's kind of way I've looked at that, since I know you mentioned it before early on today, but it's from other games that I've played, both video and table. Something there's been a rule with summons that the more summons you use, it takes up a specific part of your brain where memory is stored, and as the more you use that, the more the summon takes over that part of the brain, so you start to lose some of your memories.
Okay.
And it's like the more you use...
Isn't the memory held in the hippocampus?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's held in the hippocampus.
It's stored in the fleshy part of the brain, that's all I know.
As opposed to the bony part.
Yeah. So it's supposed to
The
the
cartilage.
skull. And the torso.
The torso of the brain.
Torso part of the brain.
Yeah. But it was kind of thing is where it's like you had this great power, and you're able to use, I guess, something like supernatural. You kind of have to give something up in order to use that, and that's kind of how that would be justified.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
It kind of does, but I think going from stories and books and movies that I've watched, I've never actually seen an example of that phenomenon. Whenever I see, there's 2 kinds of wizards in the classic tales. There's the old sorcerer that has forgotten more than the young man will ever learn, and then there's the young sorcerer who's trying to
outdo the other.
Who's trying to make his name as a sorcerer. One movie
I'll
that
be
comes.
the greatest.
You're right. One movie that comes to mind right away is the movie Dragon Slayer, with the old wizard and the young wizard Galen, who's his apprentice. And there's never a moment in any of these movies in which the sorcerer casts a spell and suddenly forgets it, or suddenly forgets anything, for that matter. The old wizard, if anything, has, in my opinion, I don't really make people do this, but in a real life situation, you would have to roll a memory check, for example, like it would be an intelligence or a willpower check or something. Some kind of a memory check to see if you remembered how to word the spell correctly. That would work for both the old wizards and the new ones, because the new ones are trying to learn. And if you fail, you get the criticonomic.
Well, that
There goes
sounds
your arm.
kind of it goes against everything that I've ever seen in movies, because when you see a character or player memorize something at the very beginning of the movie or whatever you're doing, you notice that they bring it up later, and it's like, oh, they totally tied it in with the beginning. And I've actually seen it made like, I can't remember the word that I was going to use, but they make it like
It's a spell
known that they know the spell, and it's like practicing. Like the more you use the spell, the more you know it. And I think it's strange that they say that the magic would automatically leave your memory.
Yeah.
That's strange to me. I think the more you use a spell, the more you would know how to cast it. Like if you cast a magic missile once, then it's okay, how did I cast that? And then you have to take like just as long as you took it the first time. But when you cast it like a third or fourth time, then you've casted it so much that you should know how to do it automatically.
Yes.
It's kind of like playing guitar. Is like the more it's like at first it's like really really hard, and the more and more you do it, the more and more you get used to it.
It
And it's
becomes like muscle memory.
yeah, and then as time goes on, as you don't play it anymore, you start to lose some of that, but you still kind of retain that information. But it's just not
Right.
as strong as it was. Another thing I would like to see in Magic, and I don't think they do this, but it's kind of a dire situation thing where, especially it's in the animes I've been watching, is that they go beyond their own limits. They're fighting at their limits, and then something happens and they push through. I think that should happen too, also in D&D, where depending on the situation, where it's like everybody's in critical health and you have to get out, and like something happens and then you break through. You either get some of the spells back that you weren't able to use, or you get like a different more powered up version of that spell.
Like Tiger and Bunny, good luck mode.
Yeah, actually, we've actually played that before in a situation where someone had to cast a spell that was a higher level than they could normally cast, but it was one. I mean, if they hadn't cast it, they would have all died, and that's that kind of critical situation that you're talking about, and that can be done in a lot of different ways. For example, if you for every spell level higher than you can normally cast, it would cause a d6 of Constitution damage per level over what you can normally cast. So if you can cast third level spells and you need to cast a 6th level spell, you could die.
Right.
Just by rolling those,
Because you're using not only the magical energy that you have, but you're using the stamina that you have too, and
Yeah.
that alone, like, and when you're using it, like, trying to go beyond your limits of muscle mass, it's the same thing. If you exert yourself too much, then you could have a heart attack.
Or you can just cause permanent structural damage to your body.
Right.
Right, exactly. And if you go beyond what you can normally cast in a day, you would take 1 point of Constitution damage per spell level extra that you do. And there was an instance in a dungeon that I was playing. I was dungeon mastering through years and years ago, in which this guy, this magic user in the party, actually died because he just kept casting spells, and the enemy kept coming, and he kept casting the spells, and he just wore himself out, and he finally killed the last of them, or stopped the wave, and they retreated or whatever. I think they retreated, but when it was over, he just collapsed and died because there was just nothing left of him. He had put everything that he had into that spell, you know, and his nose was bleeding, and you know everything was just
Yeah, he actually put his life force into the spells instead of his spiritual energy.
because
Exactly.
he had none. He had
Yeah.
none. There was no spiritual energy.
He had to take it from somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's just like if you put too much electricity over too small a wire, it's going to burn up. That wire is going to get hot. And if you've ever felt an electronic component that's being used too much, it'll get hot, and eventually it'll burst into flame. Well, that's exactly what happens to a person in my universe when they use too much magic, because the magic spell limits that you have in the book are how much you can safely use without basically overheating and burning out. And you can use more, but it starts to cost you, and that's, you could call that spell burn or mana burn or
Right.
whatever. But yeah, that's one of the things that I actually do. And I think that's a very cool
Concept.
concept and aspect of the game, because it adds a little bit more, as if you need any more danger. It adds more danger to the and really kind of realistic. I mean, it seems a little more
puts
real.
more suspense on it.
More suspense.
And, if you really want to make a game memorable, then you got to add a little flaw.
Right.
So I think that is actually a good tip.
Yeah, and if you and the other thing that I do with the memorization of spells, you can memorize a spell, and if it really comes down to it, and you use the spell a lot, then you start using you have to roll a memory check up until you've used the spell like 10 times. Once you've cast it 10 times, and it starts to commit itself to muscle memory, or the
Spiritual memory.
spiritual memory. Okay, we'll call it that. We'll call it spiritual memory. Writing that down right now.
It's
And
the same with a foreign language.
Patent.
yes, patent pending. Spiritual memory. Copyright 2012. Phillip Bentle.
In the basement.
In the basement with a candlestick. So, you know, once that's committed to memory, then you don't have to roll anymore. But once you've memorized more spells, because another problem that we have about memory is that if you memorize too many songs, if you have learned too many songs, too many chord progressions, then it's possible that some of those chord progressions, in the case of they'll start to blend or blur.
And that could be a fumble.
And that
when
could
you,
be a fumble.
When you think of one spell and you can't remember the components and actually remember another spell and fill in the blanks, you could be casting a magic missile flooding of some sort.
Firebolt! No, wait. Lightning bolt!
Oh God, there's ants everywhere.
Run!
The picnic. They're after the picnic. Save the honey.
I got her. So yeah, and if your repertoire, and that's why some old wizards who know, just like countless spells, that's why they forget sometimes,
Right.
Because they just have too many in their repertoire.
Or they forget normal common day knowledge because they're trying to remember all the spells they can.
Right. It's like, what was the words?
Where's this contraption on the door? I don't really know what this is. How do you work it? It's just a circle. Oh, it turns and opens. Oh, okay. Oh, it's a doorknob. That's what that thing is.
Yeah,
I
now
get
that's
it now.
when you have a very large repertoire, when you actually forget the doorknob function. And we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about
Magical weapons.
between the coming seasons, the armistice will fail. The summer has surrendered into the numbing pain. Joyce is the White Queen, forever will she reign. Field is rendered beneath the frozen skies. The White Queen must be fell or no more the sun to rise. With a smile upon his face and a twinkle in his eye, he puts a warmth in her heart and a hand upon her thigh. And we're back. Thanks for listening. This is Dwarven Tavern Radio. www.dwarventavern.net. We are here in the tavern today with Phillip Bentle, who stopped over to share some of his wisdom with us. And, Lyric, and Lyric's here with us as well. How are you doing, Lyric?
I'm good. I had a fantastic weekend.
That's fantastic.
I got some fantastic news about some fantastic schoolwork.
You're going to Japan.
I am.
She is leaving the tavern for a whole semester to go to Japan.
I'm not going to be happy about that, but at the same time, I'll be ecstatic.
Yeah, well, we can still do the show.
Absolutely.
Because you
oh
can.
Boy.
You can be. And
a cat just jumped on my lap.
Phillip has become instant friends with
one of the tavern's own kitty
at least
cats.
buy me a drink first.
Yeah.
Easy now.
Yeah, he'll have a champagne cocktail. But that's Chiba. He is the linebacker of kitty cats in the house.
Just easy on the microphone.
So, as far as magical weapons goes, what do you have to say about magic weapons?
Well, aside the troll sword, which was complete bullcrap, magical weapons really they spark my interest because they're like the cat is rubbing his face against my mic stand. It's kind of distracting. That's cute, but come on. But yeah, the thing about magic weapons is that it's really interesting. Is that like it's like you're presented with a pop, and then magic weapons come in, and it's like, oh, it's pop with vanilla. And it's just kind of add a flavor that kind of added extra, like, oh, not only do I get to cut you open, but you take 1d4 fire damage too.
Right, yeah, the old flame tongue.
Yeah,
I love that. That was one of my friend Brian's weapon was like what was it was like Kelnir or something like that. The sword that he had enchanted.
Malinir's brother.
Yes.
And it had a +3 with fire damage.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. I was like, oh, God.
Well,
I can't remember the name of the sword. But
the flames, the magic on a weapon can add to a lot of the drama. Obviously, I gave a very close friend of mine. He's also a very close friend of yours, Phillip.
Tell me about my father.
Yeah. I gave him a ring because he was actually a bounty hunter at the time. His character was a bounty hunter, and it was a ring that bestowed Vorpal abilities on your punches. So you wore it, and you could basically put your hand through anything. It was a Vorpal ring.
That's scary.
Yeah, well, it was because he had an errant son. Now this was before you were actually here.
So plus 22 years.
Yeah, it had to have been at least that. And his wife had been, terrorized and turned up that her son was possessed, and he went, because he was a bounty hunter, he knew how to track and trace people, and he went on this quest to find his son and get him back. And his son was half demon or something. You know, his son had been possessed, and he took off. And when he found him, the bounty hunter has this wonderful ability from the old first edition books, Dragon Magazine. The bounty hunter had the ability to do a knockout punch. Okay, guess what happened? He forgot to take his ring off. And
where's your face?
Yeah, it was on the outside of the building that he punched his fist through. And it was tragic, but you know he
Tragic? It's a closed casket, for God's sake! Come on.
it was terrible, but yeah, he hit, and it was, you know, if it hadn't been for magic, and if it hadn't been for that magic ring, that a lot of people would have been, oh man, what I would give for a Vorpal ring. He was like, oh man, what I would give if I had not gotten that Vorpal ring.
Yeah, because he was just like, punch him in the face, and you're like, are you still wearing your ring? He was just like,
Falco punch!
Yeah. Yes. And, well, yeah, he did a Leroy Jenkins right through the... Leroy, let's do this! Punch!
Oh my God, somebody kill him!
And, yeah, so while, you know, you can have magic that is can be translated, and this is another thing that we like to do, is I like to stay in character.
absolutely.
You know, and stay within, and it's hard to say, it's very difficult actually to get this sentence out, but it's very difficult to translate +1 through plus whatever into you know, it's powerful. It's a magic. It's an ensorcelled sword.
It's extra sharp.
It's extra sharp, right?
When you gave Akathan that +1 elven rope, you told me that the only thing that you actually explained in character was that it vibrated in his hand, and he was just like, "Whoa, what's this?" And when he used it, you told me that when he was at the bottom, because he used it to get down a hill, and when he got it, he pulled on the end, and you said that the rope at the top where he tied it just let loose, and it just fell back into his hands, all curled up, and he was just like, "Huh,
Yeah,
this is weird."
yeah, and that was very much a Samwise thing from Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
When he did that exact same thing, and that's what elven ropes are for.
That's exactly
Yeah.
And that's the enchanted.
Oh, I hate to leave this rope here. It's been such a lovely thing, and it went bloop. It was like, oh, okay, them darn elves.
And your
So
Lambert's
useful.
bread. Thank you for providing us with food that we can pack on our backpacks.
Yeah,
Make
yeah,
it convenient.
that's right. But
So how many did you eat?
so
12
27.
loaves.
12 loaves of limbus. I'll never have to eat again. But yeah, and it's important, and it adds a lot to the flavor of the game to actually put things in gaming terms as parentheticals. Because what I've often had to do is say, you know, it's a magical sword. It's incredibly sharp. It weighs next to nothing. You know, it vibrates in your hands. It has a magic word. It's warm to the touch, and
It has extra gravity.
it has extra gravity upon swinging.
You see this. You see these runes on the blade, and when you say them aloud, because you can read this particular language, suddenly, boof, fire.
Boof. Yes, and
Translate to flame on.
and then right, and then when you, after you're done with the flavor text, say it's a +2 flame tongue.
Yeah.
You know, and so they can write it down so they know exactly what you're talking about, and because you know we hate to get outside the game, you know, when you're in game. The flavor of the game to me is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
Because you get in character and all that good stuff. The other thing about magical weapons and items in general is their creation, because you can, as a, you know, if you're playing a magic user or any kind of a mage, you can ensorcel and create your own wondrous items. And in the old D&D, in the first edition and second edition, it was no easy matter to create magic things. They had their rules for it, but it was not. I don't know. In the 3.5 edition and 3.0, 3.5, I'm not really sure about 4.0 because I don't really get into that very much. But in the older editions, 3.5, you get pretty much a menu of what you need to create. You have to have the feat create wondrous items. Like fireball spell, blah 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 blah.
Yeah, all this magic and technical stuff that we're talking about is from 3.5 and before. We haven't actually got into the 4th edition yet because
I just can't bring myself to.
well,
Me
Josh
either.
and I
Yeah.
Josh and I were going to maybe play through a game so that we could come up with some review material for it. Mm-hmm. So we'll possibly do that for another radio show.
Right. Now another thing that I really like, I've been reading the Pathfinder books, and the Pathfinder books, it's made from the open gaming license. The Pathfinder books were made for 4.0, but they're calling it D20 3.75 because it has a lot of the
components of the
components
3.5.
of 3.5. The thing that I really like about it is they came up with some really good ideas, like the non-combat maneuvers. If you want to trip someone, or if you want to grapple someone, or whatever, if it doesn't do damage, right? If you can get them in a headlock, if it doesn't do damage, push them, trip them, disarm them. It's called a non-combat maneuver. And a non-combat maneuver, you use your base attack bonus plus your strength plus your D20 roll. And then you have the principle of the non-combat defense, or the combat maneuver defense, which is your strength, your dexterity, your base attack bonus, and plus 10. So it's a flat number that you don't have to roll. And some things, if you want to grapple them, you have to make a combat maneuver, and you have to beat their combat maneuver defense number. And it's a simple thing, and you just have to make one roll, add your combat maneuver bonus to it, and that tells you if you've done it or not. And it's that kind of streamlined rules that really are very cool, that I love so much, because you don't have to spend a lot of time, calculating.
Looking through books and there's no answers here. Oh,
Right.
go to page 30. Page 30 says go to page 50. Page 50 says go back to page 30.
Yeah. And then page 30 says go to page 9. It's like, how did that happen?
Page 9 says check the index.
And the index says go back to page 50. Jump on one foot, bark like a dog.
And 50's like, I don't know what they're talking about.
I don't know what you talking. This is the wrong book.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Customer must improvise.
That car.
Yeah, that was a great story.
Have you told that story yet?
I have not told that story yet. Philip's dad had a car called the Show, SHO.
A Ford show.
And the show must go on, or must it? And the brake line went out, and he went to fix the brakes, and he went to an auto parts place, and the auto parts guy looked up the part number and said, "I don't think I've ever seen this before." and Philip's dad was like, "What are you talking about?" And he turned the monitor around to show him, and it said, "Customer must improvise."
What happened was that the brake lines that were in the car were made by some Japanese company that is no longer in business.
Yes.
And by the way, we're talking about the Ford Taurus show. That's what we're talking about.
The Ford Taurus. Okay, I didn't know it was a Taurus.
Yeah, I had to look it up.
So weird. So, customer must improvise. So anyway, and the other concept is spending experience points. Now, we've discovered a very good use for spending experience points from the Silver Age Sentinels game, in which you can spend experience points to push your superpowers to beyond their natural limits and actually use the experience points you have to both go up in levels and to make yourself more powerful. In the Dungeons and Dragons world, in the D&D world, you can take experience points, or sometimes you have to, in order to create that magic item. And what that does, because I know there's a lot of people that disagree with spending experience points, is it means that instead of taking the experience you have and making yourself better overall, you're taking your experience and applying it toward a very specific thing. And that is just like being stuck somewhere. Let's say you have 6 months and you're in, school or whatever, or you're stuck on a desert island for 6 months. You can spend all that time trying to, build a raft to escape, right? Or you can perfect your sandcastle building skills.
Yeah.
And that's
Priorities.
Right. That's right, exactly. So it just says what your priorities. You spent that 6 months of experience on that island, which might be worth however many experience points translated. You spent that 6 months there. What you do with that time is up to you. And it's just like, and that's very much like real life. You can either take all that time and experience and, try and
Do something useful.
Like sharpening knives or whatever. Read a book. Yeah. Write a book, It just depends on what you want to do with that time. And that's what that's simulating. And I agree with that, I believe. Because, all that experience you get, you're either doing A with it or B with it.
Another delicate thing too is awarding experience.
Yeah, I know. That's a tough one because there have been times when the characters, and this is something that has always given me grief. There's times when the characters, defeat something incredibly easy, but I don't, and if the thing is worth 1,300 or 1,500 experience points, and they killed it in, like one blow, like Kelsian and the dragon, or the gate crasher, that elephant dude.
Right.
What?
And the dragon.
And the dragon. She did both of those with a single shot,
I do
one shot
not
kill.
want to fight her.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. But Kelsian, calls on the power of Paylor and rolls 20s, like sometimes 2 and 3 in a row.
Yeah, no. 3 times have happened before.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the case with the dragon, is that he rolled 3 20s in a row.
Hey, see, I get lucky rolls, but I never get rolls like that when I need it.
Yeah. If you're just sitting there and you're not even playing, or you're by yourself, you could roll like 5 20s in a row.
Or
And
it's
when it
on
actually counts,
initiative.
it's like your dice are stage fright.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm bending under the pressure. Don't roll me. Spin.
I can only get a 3. I'm sorry. But yeah, and of course Kelsian goes, Paylor rolls die, gets 20. And it's just the natural order of things. But when you kill a red dragon, it was an old red dragon atop a pyramid, and Kelsian's like, Paylor thwap, and hit the thing in the brain, directly in the brain.
No, it went underneath the breast scale, and it hit the soft side and went just straight through.
The Smaug syndrome.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's exactly what happened.
Bard's arrow.
Oh, woe's me.
And of course the dragon fell and landed on Ulf, which is Ian's character. Everything lands on Ulf. It's just the way. It's another natural order of things.
The last time I played a game with Ian, he sent this giant 14-foot tall, towering thing with a giant shield that has spikes on it. I had the bright idea to go in a narrow hallway, and I know now that was a big mistake. But from my training, I've learned you don't fight force with force if you're the smaller force. But
that is a very eloquently put.
But I didn't know that at the time because I I'd gone through the entire campaign. I didn't have one single kill. I was angry. I was like, I'm gonna kill this thing. And he had a great sword. I had a long sword. I tried to go in there, and he just pushed me back against the wall. Yada yada yada. Eventually, the thing grows to be about 28 feet tall, and it's chasing after me.
So what kind of experience points did you get from that, or did you get any?
I didn't get any because not only did I almost die, but I barely made it out of there alive, and I didn't kill the thing.
But see, now that brings up an interesting point, because I would have awarded some experience points for that, because you learned, and Ian may or may not agree with this, but when someone has a very
Would you like to defend yourself, Ian?
a very harrowing experience.
He's on the other side of the tavern.
Yeah, he's over at the bar. When you learn something, and you learned a lot from that experience, your character should have.
Yeah, don't trust Sebastian.
Yes,
He's over there with Ian.
He's over there on the other side.
But I think
to
that's
die.
actually a very good point. If you do learn something from that particular situation, and you learn something that is life-saving, or learn to avoid something that's detrimental, then that does count for some sort of experience points.
But is that experience point for the character or the player?
Yes.
I think it would be. Well, it's just like when the player comes up with the idea. Like, I remember when we were little, and I was like, what, 6 years old, and I'm like, we need to get down this 100-foot cliff. I've got 50 feet of rope, and Alyssa has 50 feet of rope. 50 plus 50 equals 100. Alyssa, let me borrow your rope, and we can get down this hill. And you, 50 experience points. Well, that is just as important as, say, running away from battle, because you know that you realize during battle, oh crap, I can't do this without so-and-so's help.
Yeah, I'm first level. I can't defeat all those wargs.
Well,
Yes.
the other thing that was kind of scary about this thing he sent on me. I had gotten this wrath, by the way, is that once I got out of the hallway after fighting this thing with my shield against shield, somehow I made it out of there. I to this day I cannot explain that. I almost broke my arm, by the way. But what happened is that we're in this giant tower with the hallway, and we got in the round part of the tower. It was on the base floor, and I had this little vial of alchemy fire, which I managed to use sleight of hand, get over the shield, which I fumbled on the hit though, but exploded anyway, and it did one point of fire damage. So not only is this thing 14 feet tall, pissed off and on fire, but now it's after me. And my best friend, my partner in crime, I don't even remember his character name, but he left me, hung me out to dry. He's like, I'm getting out of here. Good luck. Oh, he paid for it in the end too, because when the thing grew up to be 28 feet tall, he got on the other end of the sword and flew 30 feet away.
Oh my god.
That's awesome.
He's got negative 5 HP. Negative 5 HP and woke up with Vorpal stuff. Or clockwork, or whatever.
Wow, that's awesome.
So, with rewarding experience points to, let's say, magic use, what do you do for that?
I give 25 experience points per level of spell for every spell successfully cast.
Give an example, please.
If you're casting a 5th level fireball, or what level is fireball? 3rd level?
I think so.
Every time you cast it, it's 75 experience points.
Because it's a 3rd level spell.
Because it's a 3rd level spell, so you're practicing, and you if you just sat around and cast fireballs all day long and practice, you're going to get better at it.
Exactly.
And you're going to go up in levels, and you're going to be able to control more power and do things like that.
So go around lighting bonfires.
Go around lighting bonfires, setting hay bales on fire, just having a good old time. That's why people hate wizards. I gotta practice.
And that's why wizards hate behemoths.
That's right. That's right. And so yeah, that's one of the things that you do. You practice and you get better. It's just like if you practice your skills. If you use your skill, I give you. What do I give you for? It's 10 or 15 for every skill check successfully.
15.
15 for every per level of you.
Right. Like if we make a successful survival check, Like, if we're stuck out in the woods, and they're like, okay, we need to this, and this to make up a lean-to, so we'll be good for the night. That's 15 experience points because we used that
Right.
successfully.
And actually, I'm thinking of for making that 15 experience points for every point over the needed number, because if you do it exceptionally well, then you learn how to do it better.
Right.
So if you do a skill check and you get like, I don't know, you need a 10 to get it, and you roll a 15, and it would be 5 times 15, which would be 60, 75 experience points or whatever.
So if you fumble a check like that, would you lose experience because they're like, oh wow, I did that really terribly. I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's really a good point. I don't really get into penalizing experience points.
That's just terrible.
It really is. I had a friend who did, well, should I call him friend? I had a friend who did that. He actually
We're all friends here.
made everybody he made everybody subtract 10,000 experience points.
Oh.
We were really like epic level. This is my character Gazaran, because no one could figure out this one thing, so he held up a card and said minus 10,000.
What?
Yeah.
That's almost ridiculous.
Yeah, and it was like,
What was the scenario? Like, what couldn't you figure out? If it was like this complex puzzle, then maybe.
it was a
It's really Rita Pie.
yes. It was a ship that was on fire. It was from the elemental plane of fire.
Right.
And we were trying to fight it was like elemental flame pirates or something. It was kind of dumb. And everybody was trying different things and nothing would work because they were from the elemental plane of fire. And at some point in time early on, someone said they were going to throw their water skin at it. And they threw the water skin and it hit the deck and hissed into steam. And everybody kind of discounted the idea of putting it out with water because of that moment. And that's what he wanted us to do. He wanted us to continuously pelt it with water or create water spells or whatever, because it was from the elemental plane of fire.
To me, that would have been the first thing I would have thought of.
Well, it was right up there.
Actually, I would have thought this is kind of weird. I mean, the first thing that I thought of, if this giant mass of flame, I would want to actually not use water because it would evaporate. I would want to use dirt.
Dirt? Well, then they tried stuff like that, but his idea was water. And that's what he wanted us to use. And after the one person tried water and it just kind of hissed and steamed away, we forgot about that idea and moved on. And after
that's not exciting at all.
Yeah, after about 2 hours of brainstorming and fighting them and us getting killed and healed and blah blah blah, somebody said, well, we tried water earlier, let's try a larger amount. And they did, and the ship retreated back into the rift into the elemental plane of fire, and he penalized everybody 10,000 experience points for not being able to read his mind. Yeah, it was a real dick move.
That's mind-boggling how dumb that is.
Yeah, I take it you didn't play with him after that.
Yeah, we didn't play with him very long.
It's like the DM of games is like the AI system of video games, where it's like the harder difficulty you go up, the more dick moves that the DM or the AI does.
That's right, and only in the case of Dungeon Master, sometimes AI can stand for almost intelligent.
Oh god, this grenade spawned behind me. I'm in a room by myself. What's going on here?
Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, we're just about out of time, so we will cut it with that for this time. Next time when we return, we're going to talk about psionics, and the Witchy 500 is coming up next, and the radio drama will also be next time. We're still in the process of editing that and getting that all ready. So, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern radio show, I am Jeff Goins.
I'm Lyric Goins.
And our very special guest for this show.
I am Phillip Bentle.
Wait a minute, let's do that again. You are...
Phillip Bentle!
That was epic.
Too epic.
We are Dwarven Tavern Radio, and we Wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.